out partying.
I gotta get going. So, but she's grabbing it now. Well, you always gotta be careful when you're lifting your load up high.
You gotta be careful.
That load's dangerous.
We're ready. We're here. I have a very interesting fun fact for you.
Oh, do you now? I can hardly wait.
And if you know the answer to this, I'm telling you what, you might be all knowing.
All knowing, all seeing, all powerful.
Very good. Are you familiar with rubber ducking?
No. Well, hold on. Is that what they do with like Jeep owners and leave a random duck on them?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. I am. In fact, my aunt is a Jeep owner. She has a Gladiator.
You have a rubber ducker in the family?
I have a rubber ducker in the family, and somebody rubber ducked her and left a little tiny rubber duck with a mohawk
Yes.
on her truck.
Oh,
and she was going to throw it away, but she's like, wait a minute. Who do I know with a mohawk?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll give it to Josh. And it's floating in my hot tub.
And they didn't know she had a mohawk enthusiast in the family?
No, they had no idea, and she didn't know about the rubber duck thing. And she was a Jeep owner, which Jeep owners should know that.
Yeah.
Apparently, you weird bastards like to randomly put rubber ducks on each other's
they all
rigs.
wave at each other too.
Yeah, it's like motorcycle riders.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you're cool.
Yeah, you're cool.
Everybody else sucks.
You're cool. Takes you 12 seconds to go from 0 to 60. You're cool.
Yeah. and your rig's loud as hell inside.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But
No,
you got to give it to them. They do look cool.
No, they're great. They're fun. They serve their purpose too.
Yeah. Unfortunately, most people who
Comfort.
own
Road trip comfort would not be that purpose.
Yeah, most people who own one of those things go to the grocery store, go to work, and go on road trips. They don't use them for what they're intended for. So that is a very popular rig amongst the adult females that are living homes. Go to soccer.
Well, yeah, especially the modern Jeeps or whatever.
Yeah, that modern Jeep is like
They become like almost a Subaru.
Yeah, almost. Yeah.
Why don't you tell the Mohawk origin story?
Mohawk origin story.
I was thinking about this, and I don't even remember where it started because I remember you used to wear that dumb hat all the time.
So I used to
You used to wear a low backwards hat. It looked ridiculous.
Yeah, so I used to just shave my head right before hunting season. Just cut all my hair off, short.
Oh, it was hunting season. That's
It was always a hunting season based thing. And then I think it was like 8 years ago or 9 years ago. Oh, it's been a while. We used to, this is going to sound stupid. My kids and I would play like Call of Duty.
Yes.
And you had to pick characters.
Yeah.
And for one reason or another, I always picked a dude with a mohawk and a beard.
I play Call of Duty with my nephew.
And for some reason, I always went, that guy looks badass. I'm going to do that, right? And I always grew a beard and shaved my head in hunting season. And then at the end of September, I'd shave it off, or sometimes it would run longer because my ex-wife didn't like a longer beard.
The foliage?
She didn't like the foliage. No. There's a lot of stuff she didn't like. That's another story.
Yeah.
So I did the mohawk, and then I did it right before I left, so nobody'd ever see it. And then the following year, I did it a couple weeks before, and showed it a couple of times. And then I'm trying to remember when I actually. Well, it was right after. It was the year I got divorced that I did my mohawk, and I had it up for like a month before I went hunting season, and I just didn't care. It's like, yeah, I don't really give a crap if somebody doesn't like it or it looks bad or whatever. And then I did a video with it up, and then that got a lot of interesting comments. And then my girlfriend told me it was staying after that, and I'm like, well, I was kind of thinking that anyway, so that's fine.
Yeah.
And it's just been that way ever since. And now I look in the mirror. I think it was like 3 months in. I looked in the mirror, and it looked right to me instead of like somebody else, And if I grew all my hair out, I wouldn't think that was me, honestly. And I guess that was what was kind of always inside of me, but it was stifled and restricted and repressed. And it was nice to just be myself and not really care.
Yeah.
And I'll every once in a while somebody will make a comment down in the shop, and I said, "How's it feel to give your money to a degenerate?" Oh, but if you own your own business and get away with doing something like that, why wouldn't you? It's one of the freeing, more beautiful things in life is to be able to fully just be yourself, and it doesn't hinder you in some way.
Yeah.
I thought it would, but nope.
Yeah, freedom is a pretty powerful thing. Freedom, freedom of time, freedom of whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's the reason a lot of business owners choose to go into business. From the people I've talked to and hear from is like they wanted either freedom of time or, sometimes it's control too, but a lot of times it's just freedom. Like they just want, or they realize, hey, if I can make more money, I can do more of these things that I want to do. Mm-hmm. And they kind of like take that into their own hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Those are both very true things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of nice.
It is kind of nice. I grew up I have progressed my career through the golf industry, and the golf industry is like very traditional slacks and collared shirt and belts. And that's what people wear.
Mm-hmm.
The standard dress code. You show up to one of our like local meetings with a beard that's not trimmed or like a funky hairdo, and you're definitely getting some weird looks. Like that's non-traditional.
Gotcha.
And I always wondered was like, would that actually affect business if you dress differently? And at some point, running my own business, I was like, man, I'm just going to start. I wanted to go to the gym right after work, so I started wearing things like these, but cleaner.
Sure.
And
like a clean version of those.
Yeah,
dirty
and
pants.
I've never once in my career had any of my clients be like, I don't think you're dressed right.
Yeah, I think we passed that.
I think that's been kind of a macro trend, though.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of workplaces have become more casual.
Yeah, I think anymore, almost everything is. It's there's probably very few fields that you'd go into today that would actually have an expected dress code.
Yeah.
And that you'd probably get judged and berated for having one to begin with anymore.
Yeah. Oh, when I was in college, like if there was people, if they showed up to work unshaved, they'd get sent home. Yeah. Like golf could be very staunch that way. And obviously it depends on where you're at, but yeah. So it's nice to be who you are at work.
I appreciate it.
Don't you have is there like a YouTube complaint line you can send people to?
Yeah. Yeah. If you don't like it, just call the shop after hours and hit option 3.
Is it press 3?
Press 3. Yeah. It'll prompt you which one to press. So make a complaint about a YouTube video. Go ahead.
Have tons of fun facts today. So do you know the translation for Grand Tetons?
It's got to be big titties.
That's exactly what it is. But it sounds so nice.
Yeah.
Grand Tetons. But that's exactly what it is.
Yeah. Look, it looks like a pair of big tits. Let's call it that.
Large. I think it's French for large breasts.
Yeah, well, grand is large in French.
Yeah,
I did not know.
I
didn't know the French word for breast, but now I do.
I bet you the French have more than one word for breast.
They probably got like 20.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we got a few.
Yeah. So these are the fun facts I've been acquiring over the past few days.
You've been laying in bed staring at your phone, getting a list going.
Yeah, exactly. Interesting things picked up on the interwebs.
Yeah.
Actually, the rubber ducking thing was from Joel.
Oh, Joel told you that?
Well, he said he saw a Jeep that had a dash full of rubber duckies, and then I had to look up what that was all about.
You probably figured it was some freaky sex thing, huh?
Yeah, I don't know. I know Jeep people had a few things I didn't know about, but that was one of them.
Yeah. Well, Jeep people are a particular type of people.
Yeah. How are we doing on bow launches?
Friends, foes, fellow archers, and advocates, thanks for your support of the pod. If you want to help support the channel, head on over to podiumarcher.com for all those archery needs. $99 and up is free shipping. Got a coupon code TIMC to help save you a little money. And if you like a little bit of Jocko supplements, which I personally take every day, we got a little code for them as well. It's Josh and Tim. Leave it a review and subscribe. Thanks for your support. And let's get back to the pod. Well, the bear's done. Waiting for my next ones to come in, which should be PSE. I want to say they're launching around the 15th or so.
I'm really curious to kind of see PSEs like the path forward?
Yeah.
Are they going to do something interesting? Are they going to just stay with what they traditionally have done? Yeah.
Well, let's see. What's the date today? I don't have my phone.
Dates on here. It's the beginning of October.
Okay, so I probably can't talk about it.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I got an email on it, so I know, but yeah, but we can't have that come out beforehand. It doesn't look like drastic, but there's almost always one or two things that you don't really realize what it is until you get it in your hands. I think the main high end will be very well perceived. And I think you're going to see a lot of things very similar to that. Well, it would shock me, honestly. I mean, let's be real. Matthews crushed everybody this last year in overall sales volume. And it's not even close.
I would like to see, because there's got to be a public sales report that should show market share, right?
I'm not sure. I'd have to ask the industry people inside.
Yeah, we have those in other industries.
They
sure.
probably do. But what I can tell you is that was largely the best perceived bow nationally, and it was absolutely the best selling bow nationally.
Right.
So it's very likely, but it's a copycat industry, right? Bow manufacturers are very likely to try to lighten their riser as much as possible and make a 30-inch and 33-inch bow somewhere in there. Like very likely that you're going to see a lot of things that look just like that when somebody takes such a large share of the market, because they did. So I'll be really surprised if we don't see that across the board. But who knows, I mean, well, if you look at the brands in general, Hoyt cut a lot of weight out of their riser. We're still like a quarter pound heavier. I don't know how much more they can cut out safely, but it wouldn't shock me if they tried. I really think it's time to see a new carbon bow from them that looks different.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about carbon market share. Like, is carbon market share growing, do you think, or like the rate of carbon acceptance?
I think overall...
Or what do you think's holding it back then?
Well, I think it's price. I really do. Like if Matthews Lift 33 was $1,600, you'd sell a lot more carbon bows.
Yeah, I agree.
But when it's in that 13 to 14 range, now you're talking $600, $700 to a carbon bow.
I was actually surprised Matthews didn't hike their price a little bit last year. I was really surprised by that. I figured it'd be $100 or $150.
I'm telling you,
minimum.
In my opinion, they're the one that usually tends to look the farthest down the road.
Yeah.
Right? And I think my theory that we're just going to see several of these bow brands go away over the next 3 to 5 years is realistic. And I think, if I had to guess, I think they probably see that too.
Oh, you think they're trying to squeeze them out a little bit?
Yeah, we're going to squeeze them. Okay. We're going to come out at this price, and I know what they're making. I haven't got to test all of them yet, but I know what they're making, and what I do know is their price isn't going up much. They're making improvements and changes to their bows and all that sort of stuff, but the price isn't going up a lot. So anybody coming into the market with a $2,000, $2,100, $2,200 bow is going to have to deal with the reality that there's the main brand is selling way less money. So that's a tough egg to crack. It really is. And I think that's their long-term goal. I think they're trying to crush their opponents, and keep the price down. And they have the right equipment to be able to make that stuff at that price. They're profitable at the price that they're selling at. It's not like they're not. So, yeah, I think that's probably their plan, if I had to guess. But once again, this is not anything I know. This is just me looking at it from a long-term perspective and understanding what typically happens in the industry. That's what I would think they're targeting.
Carbon barrels are more expensive in a rifle, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And those are pretty popular.
Yeah. Yeah, but we're also talking about a $400 difference, $500 difference from one to another. Well, I guess that's probably not that similar or not that different. But here's the other thing. When you're grabbing a carbon one, it weighs less than the other one. That's where we're at. Matthews doesn't weigh more than the carbon bows. I wanted to say the Mach 30 was 1/10 of a pound lighter than a 29.5 lift, right? And I'm trying to think if somebody even had a lighter bow.
It's not substantial.
No, it's not substantial. It's basically the same.
Yeah,
I mean, real similar. Close enough that you would say, yeah, that's the same thing.
But carbon is intriguing. The warm to touch is intriguing.
Well, the construction is more elaborate. Warm to touch. Flex it flexes back. Okay, cool. What else you got?
Yeah, I would have to dig in.
Does it feel better?
Does it
on the shot? Does the bow
That's
vibrate
traditionally
less?
been the most biggest complaint, right?
They don't.
Right.
They vibrate more.
Yeah.
So
It doesn't
and that's
dissipate as well.
and that's what was really impressive to me to the Bowtech Honor is it didn't vibrate more. It vibrated less. So I think that has something to do with the material that you're using is flexible, right? So like carbon's flexible. You can bend it, you can flex it, and it flexes back, which is part of its cool rigidity state. But if it's flexible, that means it's probably flexing when it gets stressed, right? So I'm willing to bet that the vibration or felt vibration in the bow is higher on a carbon bow than it is on an equivalent aluminum. That's an argumentative thing. I'll try to figure out a way to measure it better. That freaking tool I bought just doesn't want to be consistent. It keeps bouncing all over the place, and I need to find something better for that. So I'm not even using it right now. I'm just going off of what it feels in my hand and just reporting back on that. But yeah, like you can't. I can't say I picked up a Lift 33 and went, this feels like it vibrates more than a Phase 433, right? And we lost a half a pound. So I think there's something to the reality that Matthews said that you cannot make a carbon bow as good as you can make an aluminum bow. You can't do it. And they own a guitar company. It was McPherson Guitars or something like that. And they make carbon guitars. It's not like they don't make carbon. They do. They just, it doesn't work as good in the application yet. So they don't make it. And now they are heavily invested in machinery for machining things. So I don't know how you'd make that transition unless, you know, they felt like they could come out with something that was $1,000 more and people would buy it, kind of thing. But I see the trend of the market going light. I see the trend of the market going more tunability for at-home use or forgiveness.
Yeah.
I'd be really surprised if you don't see that. You know,
We've been saying that this whole year, really.
Yeah, like I don't know how that's not going to be like a main focus.
There was such a large
brand.
separation between the best and the worst.
Yeah. And so I don't know how that's not going to be a focus of the flagship brands, at least. Like I'd be really surprised if it's not. But who knows? You know, like I go back to Hoyt at times, and I will say that Hoyt's sometimes the last of the party, and it's just because watching them over the years, like when single cams got really popular, Hoyt was the last brand to release a single cam bow, and they wrote a 3-paragraph essay on the first page of their catalog why it was dumb to do this. It was. They literally said, "This is the best system you can ever have and ever be made, and we truly, fully believe that with our hearts. But you as the consumer are demanding that we make a single cam bow, so we are." It was just like the most, it's like, wow.
That's a pretty crazy thing to do.
It is. It was so wild. I was like, what are you doing? Like, you're like basically pouting on the first page of your catalog.
Yeah, you're pouting.
And so whenever there's a technology change in the industry, they're usually, when somebody else comes out with it first, they're really hesitant to change. You know, they came out with the carbon fiber bow. They were the first major brand to do that. Now, there were some carbon stuff out there. You know, High Country did a machined block carbon, I think, at one point, and Diamond Archery started as a carbon bow company and then got out of it. So it had been dabbled with before, but no real industry leader jumping off a cliff and doing that. And once again, doing it differently than the other people that had tried to did it. Which, ironically, they don't make them that way anymore.
Yeah, and
either.
You'd almost have to be a different company or a new segment of that company to really say, "Hey, we've always specialized in steel. Now we're going to specialize in a different material."
Yeah.
It's like making a gas-powered vehicle and then being like, "We're going to make electric."
Well, that's why there was multiple carbon arrow companies before Easton started making carbon arrows, because they were the aluminum arrow company, and they made aluminum carbon arrows, but they didn't make a pure carbon arrow. And Beeman and AFC Game Tracker, which became Carbon Express, were both making carbon arrows for quite a while, like I think a decade.
Beeman's, my dad was on that. He was shooting Beeman's with a little, looked like a sleeve that went over the end.
An overshirt.
An overshirt, yeah.
Yep.
An overshirt.
Yeah.
They
Instead
looked like
of,
they were pretty skinny. Like, were they 5 mil or 4 mil?
They were 4 mil.
Yeah, they were super skinny.
4 mil back in the day, and they were a pultruded carbon.
My dad was ahead of his time.
So what that meant was, that's what all my dad shot too, was Beeman's, but they were all straight fiber. So instead of multiple layers going different directions, they all went the same direction. So when you broke them, splintered straight through the whole thing. Get slivers in your fingers and whatnot if you're not careful. I mean, they were there was some negative byproduct to that, but yeah, they were a very large percentage of the market, and eventually Easton came out with what they called their PC, which was a Easton pultruded carbon, and then Gold Tip hit the scene as the first internal component carbon fiber arrow.
I think that was the arrow I was shooting in high school. It was like a
Gold Tip
55
Hunter.
to 75.
55 to 75 Gold Tip Hunter. They still make that arrow today.
Yeah.
The Hunter 400.
It was inexpensive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Hunter 400 is still, they redid it once, but it's basically that arrow with different components in it. But those arrows came out, and inconsistent as all hell at first, too. Like the first year or 2 years, but man, you could not order enough of them. Like it's because the adapter, the overshirt thing, was the gripe. Like they'd come off all the time.
Yeah.
They'd come off in a target all the time, and people freaking hated it.
Do you remember the GPI on those?
They had a variety. So they like Beeman made
like the Beeman overshirt is what I'm talking about.
The weight, they were aluminum. They weren't heavy. They were like 40 grains, 30 grains.
No, but the actual GPI and the Beeman arrows, the ones I was talking
about.
Okay,
well, I was telling you they made several different Beeman arrows. So they made they called it there was a red label on it. I'm trying to remember what they called it. But it was like the rejects that didn't make the green label ones. When they had an arrow called Carbon Flash that was heavier. Like so they made a different GPI arrow. So the Carbon Flash was heavier, and then what the heck did they call it? I guarantee there's still some around here. Like my dad's probably got some.
I thought my dad's arrows had like a blue accent on them or something.
So the green label is what you're probably talking about. And that was the common one.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was called the Hunter, but it might have been called the Hunter. But it was that was the main one, and then the red label version of that was the ones that weren't as straight.
Yeah. But do you know what a GPI on that would have been? Like
it depends on what spine you got, because you
300 spine or 340 spine.
A unique thing that they were doing is they were making arrow spines like aluminum arrows. So there was like 10 arrows in the line, not 4, like there is today. So they made 380s, 420s, 330s, 300s.
Okay,
like
a lot of spines.
A lot of spines, but they weren't super duper heavy. I would think they're probably really similar to, God, if I remember back, like a VAP TKO weight.
That's pretty light then.
Probably. Well, they're not as light as VAPs.
Right.
but they were on the light side. Yeah, they were on the light side. Like and they were durable.
I was say they weren't brittle, right?
They were not brittle. Yeah. Like if you had made a good component for that arrow, you couldn't beat it. Like I shot those. I shot my first nice mule deer, which was when I started really stretching out how far I would shoot. Mm-hmm. I was shooting that arrow. I was shooting a Beeman. I swear to God, it was called a Hunter. It had to have been called a Hunter. I don't want to speak it wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was called a Beeman Hunter. And I was probably shooting a 380 spine and a glue over Muzzy, because Muzzy made glue over adapters for him.
Or something?
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yeah, Muzzy made an over glue on adapter for Beemans and AFCs. And then it just took their same blades and their same tips. And it was all a one-piece system. I never broke one. Like they were very durable. And the whole thing only weighed like 100 grains. So I was probably shooting 420 back then with just not great FOC. 410, 420. And I shot my first good mule deer with that at 80 yards, actually. In 1998 or something like that. 97?
Yeah.
Yeah. So a long time ago. Bows did not shoot nearly as good as they do today.
Ago.
Many moons ago.
Yeah. I got to watch the Ashby Ranch interview.
Oh, did you?
Yep. And I thought probably the most interesting part to me was near the end of it when he started talking about how spin affected penetration.
Sure.
Do you remember that part?
Yeah, if it
I
had too
couldn't
much,
quite-
if it had too much spin, it was creating like if the spin of the arrow
Yes.
exceeded the spin of the natural rotation of the broadhead, it would slow it down.
Yeah.
That was what he was trying to get at, and I'm like, all right, well, how do you test the spin of a broadhead? Like its ratio versus how fast the arrow's spinning.
That's what I couldn't quite get the summary of that spinning part, because he said in the rifles it sounded like the more spinning, the more penetration, right? The higher spin barrel got more penetration with the same velocity. Mm-hmm. That's what it sounded like.
I think so, if I remember right.
Yeah.
But
But it sounded a little muddy to me when he initially brought up how spinning affected penetration on an animal. And I was like, that's interesting. I've never thought about the rotation of the arrow and how that would affect penetration.
Yeah.
Now, maybe it's just unclear to me, or I haven't seen it defined somewhere, but how does he define heavy bone? Do you know?
What is a heavy bone?
Yeah.
Like the main structural parts, not ribs, not scap.
Okay.
Like the socket, that kind of stuff.
So, but a heavy bone would be different on a whitetail versus a buffalo.
I mean, everything that they're preaching is like water buffalo and elephants and like really big.
But is there a definition for heavy bone? Like, or he's just saying heavy bone is part of the main bone structure?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's where things get a little vague. And at the end, he's like, eventually you're going to hit heavy bone if you shoot enough animals. And
which is his premise. He's like, I've shot 1,000 animals. You're going to hit heavy bone.
That's exactly how he closed the interview. And I was like, yeah, that's true. That's true. Also, you're going to hit liver.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to hit guts.
Yeah.
If you make enough shots, you're going to hit everything.
Right.
So what is everything? Is everything mostly heavy bone?
No. It's like
and I'm not to laugh at that, to disregard what they're saying, because the things I'm listening to are all very true. Like
sure,
they're very true foundational principles of penetration. You know, not that I've studied it. It's not something I've gotten to see over and over again thousands of times. It's just something I've gotten to see a sample size of with the hunters I've been around myself and the stories I get to see, hear, and be a part of.
Yeah, if you listen to what they're saying with an open mind and a logical brain, almost all of it makes perfect sense.
No, it is true.
And it's true. Well, the hard one is that your increased energy doesn't help you, or increased velocity doesn't help you on breaking bone. I get that that's the results he got. I can't wrap my head around how.
I thought that was interesting too. And his thought initially was like the equal and opposite forces thing. So if one thing generating some amount of force at that speed, as it increases speed, it's generating more impact energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think is that Newton's third law or something.
Yeah.
It's so I could see how potentially that could work in a heavy bone scenario.
I don't know.
Because there's more force being generated by the speed.
Sure.
At that.
Sure.
And then if you didn't have the structural integrity, that could break down. Or I can honestly understand how that could be possible.
Yeah, but if you're only gaining velocity in energy, right, and not lightening the projectile, I get the concept or the premise. So what that really would boil down to in my brain was, okay, here's a concrete wall. Let's shoot both of these into the concrete wall. If your theory is accurate, they should both penetrate the exact same amount.
Yeah, if it was the same medium.
It's the same medium, but we're going to use a 40-pound recurve and then an 80-pound compound with the same projectile.
Yeah.
And shoot it into something rock hard that doesn't give. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean,
there's a way to test it, right? There's definitely ways to test it.
I can tell you right now that the heavier bow is going to penetrate harder into that object. I've done it. There's a significant difference in how much farther it goes into that solid object, or it'll bounce off, but it'll go in farther before it bounces off. So I don't know.
But anyway, my takeaway was from that, not to cut you off.
You're good.
did you want to elaborate more on that?
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, was largely the things they're saying are true. And the reference is always back to heavy bone. And I just would like to see what is heavy bone by definition. Is it a 2-inch bone, a 3-inch bone, a 4-inch bone? What is it by definition? It would be good to define that or to have some parameters to it. Say it's a 1.5 to 3-inch bone or whatever. That'd be interesting. And maybe they do have it defined somewhere in the weeds, maybe in their subnotes, something like that. It just wasn't brought up. But, my takeaway at the end of it was still, if a person were to take this information in and say, hey, this is great information, this is very good information, and put it into their recipes, like, hey, what are the things I want when I go hunting? What are the things I want when I go hunting? Do I want, what are the things I want? So do I want my arrow to get to the animal faster or slower? Maybe that's a consideration. Do I want to get there faster or slower? Do I want, how much energy do I want at that animal? How far do I want my arrow to get through? Do I want it to just get through, or do I want it to go zipping all the way through as far as possible? And when my arrow gets there, do I want it to be penetrating on a high potential, or do I want wound channel, or do I want to be somewhere in the middle? And then they could put all this information into their own recipe and mix it out and say, hey, here's the thing that might work really well for me based on the game I'm going for. You know what I mean? And the thing that pumps out of that recipe from the people we continue to talk to and I really trust and get to see observations from is, ends up being around a 450 grain arrow.
Well, that's what you'll see hands down the most by
Yeah.
far. Yeah. You'll see people go down to 400. You'll see people go up to 500, but it normally doesn't deviate too much from that in people that we see, right? So there's a whole crap ton of people you don't see and you don't hear, right? That just follow their methods, and that's all fine and dandy. There's not so much of this gets fixated on this is right, this is wrong. No, both things are right. There's just advantages and disadvantages.
Yeah, it's like a big Venn diagram.
It is.
Do you remember those from
Yeah.
high school?
Yeah.
You have 2 circles.
Yeah.
Within those circles, you have something in one circle that is true, something in the other circle that is true, and then they overlap in the middle with things that are true from both of them.
Yeah.
And a lot of these things fall into the middle of both of those circles.
Yeah. Well, and I think what you just touched on 5 minutes ago is probably the best argument you can make, hands down. If you're trying to say why I should shoot a 450 grain arrow with a mechanical broadhead, all the premise of the 650 grain arrow with the 2.62 or better mechanical advantage projectile is breaking heavy bone.
Right.
That's what this is all based on.
Yes.
Right? Well, you said, how often are you hitting heavy bone? How often are you hitting the guts?
Yeah.
How often are you hitting the liver? Right? If you take it as an average, you're going to hit bad stuff more often than you're going to hit hard stuff, I'd assume.
Yeah.
Right? So in a vacuum, wouldn't it seem like you had a better chance of recovery with just simply shooting a lighter arrow with a bigger mechanical?
Wider wound channel.
Better chance of recovery, right?
Assuming adequate penetration, which seems to be the case with most setups, modern setups.
If you don't hit heavy bone, you should have adequate penetration.
And your arrow's not flying sideways,
unless
right?
your bow's tuned like ass,
Yeah.
you should absolutely, even at 60 pounds, you should have adequate penetration, right? That shouldn't even be a question, assuming everything's tuned right. So, and I think that's I really think that's the mic drop argument. Well, where are you going to hit more?
Right.
Are you really going to hit heavy bone more often?
Yeah. There's going to be some really interesting data coming out on recovery, and it's from the Tracker app. Have you ever heard that before?
Well, I think I've heard that name. I don't know what it is.
So this guy I used to, this is 5 or 7 years ago when I got into turkey hunting. I found this guy on YouTube named Shane Simpson, and he's still got great YouTube videos now. He's just like a DIY guy, goes out, hunts on his own. Turkeys is a big passion of his, but him and some friends or some people created this thing. I believe it's called the Tracker app. I could look it up just to make sure my facts are right. But if you looked up some kind of tracker app for deer, I believe that's it. And what they're doing is when you shoot an animal, if you need help, the Tracker app allows you to call in for like a houndsman in the area.
Oh, okay.
So it's actually a really cool connection of two different groups of people. Well,
If that's legal in your state.
yeah, one being a hunter, two being a houndsman, because houndsmen need to work their dogs.
Sure.
And hunters want to recover their
They're animals.
animals. And
Sure.
I'm not sure if there's ever a fee involved. I would imagine in some cases there is, but the houndsmen are allowed to like publish that or whatever. So the tracker app is getting a bunch of data on animals that are getting shot and recovered or not recovered.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw this chart of a picture of a deer with all these grids on it. And most of the unrecovered deer were forward,
Shot forward.
low and forward, or high near the spine area.
Mm-hmm.
Many of the deer that got shot in the middle of the body were recovered.
Right.
Yeah, or even a little bit back. So it's very interesting. And they've published a couple things that have really sparked my interest in just being like, wow, this is really neat. Like someone's able to take this data and conglomerate it for us.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that's where you initially heard that mechanicals have higher recovery rates.
Bomar was talking that.
But I believe he got that from
he
the
probably
tracker
got that
app.
from the tracker app. Yeah. As mechanicals have higher recovery rate.
Yeah, I believe that's where that came from. So it's interesting. And the tracker app being like 1 or 2 years old is relatively new in the grand scheme of things. So as more data comes in, it'll be very eye opening.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that'll be cool to see.
You
at least trying to draw the largest real world environment information that you can.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Because if you once again, if you go over to the Ranch Ferry in Ashby, lab testing is pointless. You need to test it in the real world. Well, that's real world. Mm-hmm. So that'd be great. Like that, because we're all very fortunate and should be very grateful for the testing that Ashby did, because nobody really understood what was necessary for certain things in certain areas.
Yeah.
And very, very grateful for all those efforts.
And I really like to hear how often Ashby came back to say perfect arrow flight.
Yeah, it's what matters.
Yeah. Many times he circled back to say all of these things are downstream from perfect arrow flight, which is interesting to me because in the past, I've heard Troy say to Brandon, the bow is just a launcher. I've heard him say that a couple times.
Yeah, it's a kinetic energy device.
Yeah.
Is what he likes to say. Yeah, which means it doesn't matter if it's tuned right or not. It's going to leave with the same amount of effort.
Yeah, and I think it's unfair to just judge him based on that statement, because people can learn and change and evolve. And it sounds like now, when I hear him talk about those things, he does echo that.
Yeah, emphasizes perfect arrow flight is relevant.
So I think maybe his opinion has evolved on that.
Well, yes and no, because he's always operated under the assumption that you use his tuning kit to figure out what arrow you shoot, and that is perfect arrow flight without moving anything on the bow. And you can do that. It does function that way. It does work that way. It's just, is there an efficiency loss? And he doesn't think there is. And it's one of those things on my list of when I have like a free week, because it'll be pretty deep and in depth to show it and film it correctly, that there is a loss when you aren't tuned correctly versus correctly.
And that would be a dated way of tuning as well.
Yeah, and honestly, you should be doing both things. You really should. You should tune your bow to where it's perfectly square, leaving down the center of the riser with a level knock height, assuming your bow is capable of doing that, and then mess with arrow spine with weight to have the most optimal position you can have. What you'll probably find... And noctune, yeah.
Yeah.
What you'll probably find is that the arrow spine that you end up with will be lighter than what you would have had to use when the bow wasn't tuned. Because in an untuned bow, it's going to flex the arrow worse.
Sure.
Right? So you need a stiffer arrow to recover quicker.
Yes.
So you, in theory, would be able to use a little less spine than you would have to in the other way. I would think, but, hey, what do I know?
Yeah. Yeah. So, that's a difference of opinion maybe you have at this state in the game.
Well, and I don't think it's something that he disagrees with. He just hasn't experienced it yet.
Right.
But from what he has experienced, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can change that. We'll see.
And you
or
can
we'll be proven
not
wrong.
to speculate too much on this thing, because I think we've talked about it for 3 podcasts in a row, but it's
a great video.
It is relatively interesting. And you can see that Ranch is in an evolution of learning like we all are, right? He's interested in archery, and he's just in an evolution, But part of his evolution has not been hanging out in an archery shop.
Well, but there is also something to be said. I agree. I think he has started hanging out in an archery shop a little more, but
in the grand scheme of
in
things,
the grand scheme of things, no, it was
like an
playing at
archery
home
technician.
and trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
I think that there's something pretty amazing to being in the environment that they're operating in typically, or he's operating in, which is, 20, 25 yards, feeder, and a pig, to actually be able to shoot one anywhere and it goes through, where you watch. I mean, that's an animal that traditionally is actually kind of hard to penetrate.
Yeah.
Right. So I could see where you'd see that versus the other and go, well, why would you ever use anything else? Especially if that's what you're hunting. Mm-hmm. Right. But I think there's a broader scope to it, and I think there's something in between everything that everyone thinks is right that's probably better. But his this is like trying to pull Democrats and Republicans together. Like it really is. It's like people are so polar indifferent on what they think is right that to try to find some medium common ground here where the advantages of one and the advantage of the other can meet and find something that is superior, which is really my desire. I want to see something adapt from this and that is better, because there's clearly an advantage in certain circumstances to what they're preaching and using. No different than there's certain advantages in certain circumstances to what I would use or recommend, or Aaron Snyder would, or T-Bone would, what have you. What they would think is right and should be used. Mm-hmm. I really truly believe there's something in the middle, and it's just not getting communicated across well. Mm-hmm. Like if the communication can be more or less adversarial, I think you might find something better overall that we can all benefit from. Because at the end of the day, I want us to all be as effective as possible and as successful as possible, because that keeps you in the sport, that gets more people in the sport, that grows the sport.
Yes.
And if we can all find a happy medium, then there's less these people versus these people. Oh, now we're one group again, and we're more likely to care about the other side of the coin and grow better as a group and have better opportunities, especially when it comes to political crap. When they start trying to vote things away from you.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that.
We are all hunters. And the infighting in between people that use a compound is baffling to me. It's like, you're using the same tool. Oh, I shoot a different arrow or a different broadhead out of it, so you're an idiot and I'm smart. I'm like, oh my God, you have been divided so fucking much that none of your voices matter. Like, this needs to be one unified voice together going that direction. Because I guarantee you, the people that don't want you to be able to do what you're doing are a unified voice going that direction. You got to figure out how to understand each other and agree to disagree, but still believe in what each other is doing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, there's something to that. And, we live in the information era. And a lot more good information's coming out, and I think a lot more people are using that information to make better choices, Yeah,
this whole thing is an evolution of improvement.
Yeah.
Whether you're picking a side or trying to find somewhere in between the sides for everyone to agree with, right? It's all an improvement, which is great. Mm-hmm. Like these discussions and these arguments and disagreements and whatnot all help stimulate thought and focus. Now, I get the Dudley play of just stop dicking with it and go shoot your bow, because at the end of the day, we all need to shoot more. He's got a really good point too, very valid. Like, hey, just go shoot your bow and it probably won't matter that much.
Yeah,
and he's right. However, that's not the stimulating conversation that comes up. It draws you in more. It creates more excitement. It creates more reason to focus on it, pay attention to it. So maybe that can also stimulate into shooting more. So maybe all these things can work together as a positive thing, instead of you're doing that wrong, just stop worrying about that and go do this, or this is right and this is wrong. It's like, no, we all need to participate in archery as much as we can on every facet of it, discussion or shooting or tuning or heavy arrows or light arrows or 3-to-1 cut ratios or 2-inch wide mechanicals. We all need to still be going in the same direction together because we all grow, and that's important.
Yeah, it's a good thing. And, it's similar it's not that dissimilar from bullets. Like a 22 bullet's going to be used for something different than a 30 caliber. They each have their place.
Yeah.
One of them's for a rabbit. The other one's for an elk.
Right.
Or a deer. Today, if you were to leave today and you're like, hey, I'm going to hunt a buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
Are you pulling the same arrow that you have in your quiver right now?
What kind of buffalo?
Oh, let's just go with the hot topic buffalo that is right now.
Like a water buffalo?
One that roams around Australia.
No.
Yeah.
I can assure you I would probably ask what's the minimum weight they'd accept.
Yeah.
I probably would. But I would definitely, no question, be using a 2.62 mechanical advantage broadhead, period. There wouldn't be a piece of aluminum on my equipment anywhere, no matter what. Might be titanium, might be steel. Hopefully titanium, just because it's a harder breaking point than steel on whatever I use. And I'd probably need a super stiff arrow because it's probably going to be a lot of weight in the front. Like if they said you need a 650 grain arrow, 400 of it is going to be in the front. Like it would be for sure. Because I agree and believe that in an environment where I'm not trying to shoot through a motorcycle, I'm trying to shoot through a VW. Like I need a harder object. Mm-hmm. I don't disagree with it at all. I'd probably still shoot a lot of weight. I'd probably still shoot 80, 85 pounds, something like that. But I'd be willing to bet I'd probably be closer to the minimum of what's accepted than to the maximum of what you could build. I'd probably need I'd love to stay in a 250 spine, but I'd probably have to end up in a 200 spine to get it to work right at my length, that weight. But yeah, I would adopt most of the things that they say because I'm shooting at an animal that's full of heavy bone.
Yeah. Well,
I would. I don't know if I would shoot a 450 or 500 grain arrow into something like that. I'd want to test it more first. Yeah. That's never been something that I've even contemplated on. Like an elk or a moose is about as big as I would go mentally, and I don't think I would necessarily question most of what I'm using now on a moose. Yeah.
And I think from the experiences I get to hear about, that seems similar on a moose. Like a moose you can get into with a similar setup to what you use. I would say here's how I would go about it, and this has proven to be a pretty good way to figure out a good framework for finding an answer, is I would triangulate a little bit. I would talk to some Aussies, and I would say, hey, people that have shot water buffalo, what are you using? How's that going? Talk to me about that. I would, if I could talk to someone who's a little bit of an expert in that field, that'd be great. And I would just bounce it off a few people. And I would take all that information and I would, hey. I would.
Oh, the garbage pail kid strikes again.
I would amalgamate it. That's quite a word, isn't it?
Amalgamate?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what that means. I didn't go to college.
Yeah. It means put it all into the pot.
Why didn't you say I'd put it all in the pot?
And
because I want to sound smart.
And I would end up somewhere in the middle of all that information I found.
Yeah.
And that seems to be a pretty good way to figure out the right system. And from the people I've talked to right now, which is, I don't know, I get DMs from Aussies weekly or more. Most of them are like 500 to 550. Sharp ass broadhead on the front. A lot of them like a two blade or whatever. And yeah.
That sounds about what I would expect.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe just a little heavier, but not a ton.
Yeah.
And a really good sharp 2-blade, single bevel probably preferably because it does tend to break easier. Yeah, I've just...
Different tools for different deals, you know? I mean, you're going to go shoot a prairie dog or something. Mm-hmm. You know, you could probably shoot a pretty fast arrow at a prairie dog and zip through it.
God, I would hope so.
So if you're going to go shoot prairie dogs, you probably wouldn't do it with a heavy arrow.
No.
Unless you couldn't retune your bow.
Right.
Because then that actually ends up being a crux, because if you're a person who can't retune their bow, it sucks to change setups.
Well, you might want to shoot a heavy arrow at a prairie dog.
Would you?
Because you're probably not going to damage it when it hits the ground. There could be some pluses to that, right? Like what's going to survive better if you hit a rock in the dirt.
And maybe you can catch it in the head.
And maybe it doesn't
asshole.
skip. Yeah.
You can hit the head and the asshole in the same shot.
Yeah, and maybe it doesn't skip all the way out into oblivion when you whiz through it because that arrow's going so fast.
But I'll tell you, that might be something that you disregard from time to time, is like, and this is why I was pretty married to an arrow setup for a long time that was pretty middle of the road arrow setup, but it's freaking tough to change arrow setups when you got to think about retuning your bow and you can't do it.
It's true.
That becomes a point of friction. You have to get to a shop, and then you have to retune your bow, and then you have to put a new sight tape on, all of which takes time and energy.
Yeah, it's usually why I can't talk my cousin out of changing his bow every year.
Right.
It's like, I ain't going to go through all that again.
This thing's tuned.
This thing's tuned. This thing's dialed. My sight tape's perfect. I don't want to touch it.
Yep.
So I basically have to hand it to him done. So here, this one's dialed too.
Yeah, take this one. This one's dialed.
Take this one. It's perfect.
But yeah, so when you are able to retune your bow and understand like your basic tuning principles, it makes a lot of that stuff easier to do. Like there's less friction involved.
Which is why there needs to be as much information out there as possible about how to tune your bow, different methods of tuning your bow, different types of tuning for each type of bow, et cetera, to where there's zero barrier to entry, which is hopefully the next year of my life.
Yeah.
Of as much different things I can put out there.
There's
like
a lot of
changing
legwork
strings.
to do.
There is, because, I mean, the hard part of it is so many of them are similar that you could try to like have a database of, look, all these are probably going to do the same thing. So you could, in theory, say this one video will cover all these bows. The problem with that is that people aren't going to search for it that way. They're going to search for it of how do I tune a lift 33? That's what they're going to search, right? They're not going to search how do I tune a Matthews. They're more likely to search their keywords for their bow. So I think I have to go through and like take the flagship every year.
No, I don't think you do. I think you make a really good tuning video. It'll just live and breathe. But you could also add to that, if you wanted. But I think if you did it once, you did it right, and you lumped all those things into it, YouTube's good that way. It'll still direct people to things that don't have your keywords. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it is good that way. Now, I bet you could solve a lot of problems if you could make a flow chart that is like, okay, you have a point high tear, boom, boom, boom. Here's problem solving 1, 2, 3.
Sure.
And it's like, okay, so
that was for a paper tuning video that I was going to make. Yeah.
Yeah. So if there was like a flow chart that could show you, okay, points, like let's say point right tear. What are the things that a point right tear could be?
Wheeling, rest position, arrow spine.
Yep. And then you say, okay, wheeling, rest position, arrow spine. And then in the section of that video, this could be one video that directs to those things, or it could all just be part of one mega video that was like, had chapters in it. And then they could scroll forward to that thing, and then they could check that thing. And then if that thing didn't work, then they come back to the flow chart and go to the other thing.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? So I think that would be a way that you could, what's that 80-20 thing where you could like solve most of the problems with like one really good flow chart and explanation that ran downstream from it. And there's always going to be nuanced items that came out of that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I'll do it that way.
Yeah.
I mean, because my whole intent was to just do the flagships every year going forward. And then there'd be like kind of a guideline for that year.
Yeah.
That would kind of live on. But I should probably start by a really good, really well done.
One really good one. One
paper
really well
tuning
done
video with the right way to paper tune.
You could sink your time and teeth into that, and that could be the kind of video that over the course of time really generates some views, because the thing about tutorials is you come back to them. I realized.
Yeah, they live and breathe for a long time.
I realized this when I was Tim's construction service, and I was going through my academy, my academy on YouTube, where if I had to learn something, I'd go to YouTube, and then I was like, oh, okay, boom. And then I go work on it, and that's like, oh, I got to go back to it.
Right.
Because you just do. You do. And especially with bow tuning, because there's, I know to you, you've been doing it since forever. It's like tying your shoes, but there's so many items within those buckets. Like like you mentioned, you go point right terror. There's 3 things that you could potentially dive into.
For sure. And that was another reminder I had. I was doing a podcast with Redbeard the other day, and that was a reminder of you got to get basic, like get the entry stuff better, like because there just isn't good stuff there. And that was where I was trying to start my whole Archery 101 series from that I've only done like 4 videos in. I need to do one of those a week.
Yeah, the way I would approach that is just to do it once and do it right. And even if you really got to take your time with it, is like, maybe you redo some of that shit 5 years down the road, but it's not stuff you want to be recycling all the time. Because if it's done once, it's done right. That shit is timeless.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know how to shoot a bow in 1999. You know how to shoot a bow in 2025.
Yeah.
There might be some nuance difference, but the principles are similar.
The rules for paper tuning.
Yes. Who's that one guy that I've seen an old school archery video of shooting a hinge, like the very first Vegas video on the internet? God, Justin knows his name. He's shooting a hinge. It's like 1995.
Terry Ragsdale?
Yeah. Yeah. If that guy stepped into 2025 with a Matthews Lift 33 and that same hinge he was shooting, he would still smack the middle of the paper.
Sure, of course he would.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, him and his
fundamentals are timeless.
Him and his wife, I want to say, won Vegas at the same time.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
I've seen that video. It's kind of a cool old school video on the tubes.
Oh yeah. Back in the Dizzy.
Yeah.
When
but
everybody shot a springy rest with a 1/4 inch knock high position.
Yeah. You got to have that foundation, right? And even if it's at the very basic level, once you have that foundation, then you can go up. You know what I mean?
All right, I'll do it.
Yeah, do it well.
I'll do it.
Do it once.
Yeah,
and
I agree. You're right. I'll do it that way.
Yeah, it'll be awesome. So I think on that note, we'll sign off today. We got to ship Josh out to his grandpa's birthday.
Grandpa's birthday.
Yeah,
grandpa's birthday lunch in Sandpoint.
How old's Grandpa?
90 something.
How's his health?
He just lost his wife this year. He's doing okay though, like physically.
Yeah.
Health wise, he's pretty darn good. He's still struggling, obviously, which they were together for 50 years.
When your age starts with a 9, it's like
yeah, he's up there.
That's a lot of years of experience.
Yeah, he's still a pretty wise man. Like if you sit down and talk to him, he'll say something to you every 20 minutes. It's just like, yeah, Grandpa. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
That's cool.
You know, he's very wise.
Wisdom's high, balls are low.
Yeah. You're not wrong.
Inverse proportion.
The farther your balls get from the braid, the smarter you get.
Yes.
Oh, man, there you go.
That's it.
Yeah.
So we'll leave you on that one. As a closer, you know, as we have these conversations about, you know, different arrow weights and stuff, I want to make sure, you know, it's not divisive. It's, I don't want to come across as divisive. I want to give my perspective and share that with you. And it doesn't mean I'm right either. It's just like, these are my thoughts and ideas at this time of life. And, like Josh talked about earlier, archery and hunters in general should be united, not divided. That's a pretty important concept.
And that goes for rifle hunters, muzzleloader hunters, shotgun hunters.
Even traditional archers?
Traditional archers. Yeah, I know. Traditional archers, modern archers, crossbow people.
Crossbow enthusiasts.
Stop alienating those guys as poachers. They're still hunters just like you and me.
Yeah.
There is no difference. I know it's a different tool and you might not like it, but falconry, trappers, we're all sportsmen that want to enjoy the woods and take from its bounty and survive on it. Mm-hmm. We're the same people.
Yeah, if you're doing
just grew up with a different tool or had a desire to use a different tool, it's the same path. Respect it all.
Yeah, if you're doing it legally,
love it. Yeah, no cheating.
Yeah. So, we're going to sign off today. I appreciate you guys, and we'll catch you back for the next one.
See ya.